everybody, here's a quick little video that I hope you guys will enjoy, find useful. So I've been working on a series of small pieces, and the way it started was, I don't know why I did this, but I had a piece of 9x12 mixed media paper, and I decided to divide it up into 6 and draw 6 little mice with flowers around them. And after they sat around for quite a while, I finally got around to painting them. And then I thought, okay, what am I going to do with them now? And I decided to create a series of small wall pieces or pieces that could go on a little easel on a desk or a shelf. And I almost finished them. I finished 5 of them, and then I thought, well, wait a minute, I think I'll do this little video of how to do this self-framing thing on a cradled board. So let me show you first. There's the one mouse with a, what is this? A Canterbury bell, maybe? Not totally sure. This one's just a mouse on some moss with some leaves around it. They are, by the way, mouse fairies. These are the antennae, and then there's a little wing, which is kind of hard to see. But there's our mouse with violas. Probably some kind of overly small flowering fruit branches, maybe. And then painted daisies. And the last one I have is this little guy with some sort of a flower. I don't know what it is. Made up flower. And he's going to go on this one. So just a few words about creating something that has its own frame. I really like doing that for a couple of reasons. One is that it's less expensive than framing a piece. But to me, more importantly even, is that the frame then is so well integrated with the art. A lot of times in the past, when I was actually framing pieces, I would have trouble finding a frame that I really liked. In the end, you were looking at 2 things, not one. You were looking at the piece of art and then the frame that went with it, more or less. And I think even harder if you're trying to sell a piece that's framed, you don't know whether the frame is going to be something that the person who really likes the art also likes. So I got into what I call self-framed art, and this is one way of doing it on a cradled board. Now this is a cradled birch panel from Dick Blick. It's 6 inches by 6 inches. Not very expensive. It's only, I think about $6. So it's going to go right there. And we're going to have this background that begins with the mottled paint. So it's important to work quickly, and also to work quickly so that the paint won't dry prematurely. So I'm putting some paint, I sprayed it with water, maybe too much water. Anyway, and I'm just putting the paint directly on the panel. I want a lot of paint. And various colors. I'm going to sop up some of this water here. The rest of them I did without water, but I did have a problem occasionally with the paint drying too quickly, so I thought this might make it easier, or make it better, solve that problem. There's no reason to do the middle, because that's going to be underneath our little piece. So I've got the paint dotted on, and I'm going to just lightly spread it around. I don't want to do this a whole lot because I don't want to overly mix these colors. And quickly I'm going to paint the sides. You might find that this slows you down too much and maybe want to just come back later and paint the sides, but I'm going to do it now. Okay, so I've got the sides, and I've done some painting or some moving around of the paint with the brush, but I don't want to continue with the brush because that will mix the colors more than I want. So I'm blotting them with a paper towel, and that's blending them a little bit as well. So now that I've got that, paint's wet. There's a little spot that didn't get paint on it. Now I'm gonna take this palette knife and just scrape some designs in it. And you know, it's not a very controllable thing, so I'm not looking for perfectly formed leaves, but they're not perfectly formed, that's for sure. It's just kind of hard to handle, but I don't think it really matters because it's kind of free, which is fine. Now you can see that, or you can imagine that if the paint were already drying, I would have a really hard time getting this design. And I'm not totally sure exactly where the edge of the margin is going to stop. In other words, how much of this center is going to be covered, but so some of what I'm scraping out might very well end up under my little art piece. It's a little dry up there, so I'm not getting a lot of removal right up there, which is okay too. I think that if you wanted this more controlled, if you had like a stick and you could support your hand better, you might be able to get a more even design. Or possibly I am nervous because I know I have to, or I think I have to do it fairly quickly. But I think it did help to spray the water. Okay, now there it's drying. See that? And let's just do one more coming up here. And I guess, you know, you could do some other things also. You could use a comb and scrape with that. Don't necessarily have to do a design like I did. So that's the first step. It's going to look good. Now this has to dry completely, which will take a while because the paint is so thick. So I'll be back when that's ready. Okay, so we have our first layer or first part of our frame done, and it is dried. And now we need to position. The next thing is to put this on, the painting on. We'll need to correctly position it first. So I want to get it centered. So I know that, let's see. It'll be a 1 1/4 margin, which, whoops, that's crooked. A little more this way. It's good that way. Good that way. Okay. So I'm going to mark my 4 corners with a little pencil dot. And, you know, you might want to pay attention to what orientation you want it in, kind of like that. Ooh, I like that. Because of the purple up here. Okay, so I think that's where I'm going to put it. So let me relocate my dots here. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right. Now, I'm going to use Liquitex matte gel for my adhesive. And what I want to do is put it pretty much just in this area where I'm going to glue it. You can go outside the area somewhat. In fact, you probably need to be sure you get the edges. But I'm not going to go over the whole thing at this point. And then the back of the piece. I'm going to hold it down. And by the way, the little painting is sealed. It's sealed with the matte gel medium also. So, pressing down. Now it's not going to want to stay very well on its own, so I'm going to weight it down. Now the first thing I'm going to put over it to weight it down is wax paper, because some of this adhesive is beyond the limits of the little painting, and this wax paper won't stick to it as it dries. And then something with a nice flat bottom, and finally something heavy. Now I'm going to leave that overnight because I want to make sure it's good and stuck before I proceed. So I'll see you tomorrow and we'll get on with it. Alrighty, bye-bye. Alrighty, our piece has dried overnight, so let's take our weights off of it. You remember we were gluing the center, the little painting in the center. And, oh my goodness. And the wax paper was to prevent any of the adhesive which had come out here beyond the painting from sticking while we were weighting this down to dry. Okay, so the next part is really short. And I'm just showing you these things because I wanted to make a frame that was using different techniques and different materials. So then our next step, which is purely, you know, up to you and what you want to do on yours, I'm using a Neocolor 2, which is a water-soluble crayon by Kaaren. And it goes on like a crayon, and then it activates, meaning it'll dissolve with water. Kind of like the idea of a watercolor pencil, but a crayon. And if you choose to activate it with something other than water, but which is water-based, that works too. And what we're going to be using is our matte medium that we used as an adhesive. And the thing about that is that once the matte medium dissolves the crayon, the Neocolor 2, and then dries, it will not reactivate. So it's just going to give us a nice little white border you know, it's kind of subtle. So these crayons come in a lot of colors. You could choose a different color. I could have chosen, for instance, lavender to bring out the colors in the flowers and these little bits in the painted background, but I've used white on all the rest, so I'm going to continue on this last one. So at the same time that I'm activating this, I'm going to put matte medium over the whole piece, and that's the final seal. Now, at first I'm just going up to the edge. I'm not going over the edge, because once I go over the edge, you'll see the color. See it soften? That's the water in the matte medium dissolving that Neo-Color 2 crayon. Isn't it pretty? So it's a nice hazy look. And if I just went like that over the whole thing, I would get this white beyond where I wanted it, just around the border. So that's it for this step. And we'll leave that dry. And I'll be back for the final parts where we're going to use gold. Yay. Okay, I'll see you in a while. Bye-bye. Okay, now to finish up our little framed art piece, self-framed art piece. And this is the most fun part, I think. We're using gold. So I have 3 different kinds of gold pens here. This is a, what is it? A Uniball Signo gold, but it's a gold glitter pen. This is a Uniball Signo regular gold metallic pen. And then this is a Krylon gold leafing pen. And they're different from each other, and I'm going to show you that. But before I do that, I just want to say that generally speaking, I would prefer to put the gold on after whatever I'm going to use to seal, because I think the sealer, maybe unless it's a gloss varnish, but matte things, I think they dull the gold a little bit. So, you know, like this that I already did, and then did the sealer over. Maybe I want to do it again, but so we already have our border here, but I like to kind of layer borders, if you want to put it that way, by adding different things. So we have our border of just the paint, which we could have left there. Then we have the scratch away, which we could have left there. Then we emphasize the edge with our white. Now I want to emphasize the edge of the painting itself and separate the painting from the border. And I'm going to do this in kind of a tedious way. And I like tedium, so I won't show you the whole thing, but just a row of gold dots all around the edge. Now, it's very important that your matte medium that you use to seal is good and dry, or else this really isn't gonna show very well over it. So I would just go all around the edge. Actually, I'll just go ahead and do that because I can talk to you in the meantime about these self-framed pieces. So I guess maybe you could have a discussion about whether this is really a frame or a border. Either way, it sets the art off from its surroundings, and also adds to the artistic effect of the piece. So I really enjoy doing this. And there are so many different things you could do. You could do collage behind the piece. You could do stenciling, you could do stamping, you know, whatever you like to do in your mixed media art, you can do that in the border. Then another thing you could do would be to expand or extend the design of the painting into the border. So for example, you could have these stems coming up and more leaves and more flowers and so on, and that would be another way to embellish your border but integrate the border with the piece itself. I guess another thing I can say while I'm doing this is about hanging the piece. So when you look on the back, this is what it looks like. I would not add just a little sawtooth there, because then the hook that you're hanging it from is probably going to show above the piece. I would put a wire on it. Or if you're just going to have it displayed on a tabletop, you don't need anything on the back to hang it with, because you can just put it on a little easel. So very versatile. The size of it makes it, the small size makes it versatile, I think. Okay, so we're almost done here. And this is the regular gold pen. It is not the glitter pen. Getting to that next in just a second here. Okay, now I don't think you can necessarily see that very well because it's so small, but it is there. Now next I'm going to use the glitter pen. Now the thing I love about the glitter pen is that it shows or doesn't show depending on the direction the light's falling on it. So I'll show you here. I don't know if you can see what I'm doing because, like I said, it looks different light versus no light. So can you see that? I hope so. And by adding this, I would say I'm layering borders. So I'm layering this little gold pen design of vining branches and leaves over the scratched away branches and leaves. And I wouldn't do it everywhere. I would do it sparingly, I think. Sort of sparingly. We don't want too sparingly. And this pen comes in silver, which is really pretty. I'm not sure whether or not it comes in copper or rose gold, but I know we've got silver and gold, and they're both really beautiful. And of course you could use other kinds of pens. You know, like if you had a blue or green metallic pen, you could use that. But anyway, I think that we'll put a little one over here. Okay, so that's the glitter pen. Shows or doesn't show depending on the angle at which the light is falling on it. Now the next thing I'm going to use is this Krylon leafing pen. This particular one I think is pretty low on ink. You shake it up. It's got a little ball in there that you can hear. And then you have to push down on it to get the ink flowing down into the tip. And like I say, I think this one's I think this one's, hold on a sec, let me see if I have another one, which I hope I do. Well, I did not have another gold one. I have a rose gold one, so let's see what that looks like. And I'll order another gold one and then go over the rose gold so that all my 6 pieces. Oh, this is dead. Okay, so I'm so sorry I can't show you that. What I will, well, I'll show you on this one. So that's what it looks like. I did want to show you this kind of gold paint that I really like, so we'll do this instead. This is Lumiere by Jacquard, and this is bright gold. Light body metallic acrylic. So one thing I really like to do with this is do a finger edge. And what I do is I dip my finger in the paint and then roll it onto the edge. Like so. You can get a thin line like this. Quick, pretty even, easy. And this Lumiere paint comes in so many different beautiful metallic colors. And then the other thing you can do is you can smear it a little bit. Not a lot. And it's going to be uneven, which I'm okay with. And there it is. Pretty. So much for our little dive into self-framing your art. I love these panels, but you can also just get 1/4-inch medium density fiberboard at a home improvement store like Lowe's or Home Depot. They can cut it to size for you, and it'll do just fine. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed that. I hope that was helpful to you, and hope to see you again on another YouTube adventure. Alrighty, take care everybody. Bye-bye.